Hey, welcome back everyone. This is Uncle Frank, and I am not a financial advisor, nor is any of the content to be construed as financial advice. This channel is for entertainment purposes only. Okay, in this episode, we'll start with XRP. We're going to begin with a quick review of events, then we'll get into what's on deck. Beginning October 1st, the government was shut down. They knew they were going to shut it down. They planned to shut it down, and they were counting on it being shut down. They had lots of things planned for the shutdown, things that are far easier to accomplish when the government is shut down, and they're executing their plans right now. So I put a sorry we're closed sign on October 1st. So on Friday, government shutdown becomes third longest in history, with no end in sight on day 17. From the White House, shutdown layoffs will be north of 10,000. They know that because this was planned. Panic as U.S. federal workers scramble to find out if they've been fired. Quote, I don't have email access. Well, let me translate that for you. You're not laid off, you're not furloughed, you don't have email access because you're fired. Judge halts Trump's planned layoffs of federal workers during government shutdown, calling them unlawful. Unions say White House plans mass layoff and Interior Department despite the court order. Both parties brace for a long conflict as government shutdown hits 2-week mark. Okay, let's talk about that. How long will this last? Well, if I had to guess, we'll set a new record, which currently stands at 35 days, and that will take us into November. Now, Uncle Frank, are you saying the Fed shut down the government to delay our spot XRP ETFs? No, of course not. I'm saying that the SEC deliberately delayed our ETF approvals multiple times, knowing the government would shut down in October, pushing the approvals out indefinitely. And this was for one simple reason. They were told to. The Feds, Wall Street, BlackRock, even the Trump family crypto business is protecting and pumping Bitcoin and Ethereum. And they certainly don't want an XRP ETF to launch that could draw potentially tens of billions of dollars away from their pet projects. Now, November 4th will be 35 days, and I think they'll exceed that. But let's go to Polymarket and check the odds. When will the government shutdown end? 14% say between October 31st and November 3rd. 15% say between November 4th and 7th. But 42%, and this is the camp I'm in, believe it will end after November 16th. Now, stick with me, guys. I'm trying to do this in order so we can see the play. Now, I don't know if you missed it. I covered it in one of my videos, but something interesting happened on October 8th. The globalists all came out and all said the same thing all on the same day. They believe the AI bubble could pop at any moment. Let me give you some examples. The Bank of England warned on October 8th of a growing risk that tech stock prices, inflated by the AI boom, could burst. The IMF raised a similar alarm to the Bank of England, warning that financial conditions could turn abruptly. JP Morgan's CEO Jamie Dimon said in early October that a lot of assets appear to be entering bubble territory and predicted a market correction within the next 6 months to 2 years. OpenAI CEO Sam Altman reiterated earlier warnings in August of 2025 that the AI market is a bubble and that many investors will lose a phenomenal amount of money. Former Cisco CEO John Chambers noted troubling similarities between the current AI surge and the dot-com bubble. Yale Insights, Jeffrey Sonnenfeld and Stefan Henriques published an article on October 8th outlining 3 ways the AI bubble could burst. Bank of America, an October 2025 survey of global fund managers found that 54% considered AI stocks to be in a bubble. Okay, so the globalists were all trying to spook the market and pop the AI bubble all on the same day. So I put a little WEF logo there. Let's continue. So, Uncle Frank, why all on the same day? What did the globalists know on Wednesday that we didn't know? I'll show you. The very next day, Thursday the 9th, the Chinese ignited the trade war again. You think the globalists didn't know that was coming? You'd better think again. The Chinese know exactly where we are most vulnerable right now, and that's AI, artificial intelligence. So they shot an arrow at the very thing that could hurt tech manufacturers, rare earth. This all happened on the next day, Thursday the 9th. China's Ministry of Commerce and Customs announced sweeping export restrictions on key resources and materials, many of which are vital to global manufacturing, tech, and defense industries. Rare earths. Control was tightened on 5 additional rare earth elements. The controls also covered equipment and production technologies used for processing rare earths, battery components. Export restrictions were placed on lithium-ion batteries and synthetic graphite anodes. Semiconductor materials. Curbs were announced on materials used to produce semiconductors, quantum devices, and other advanced electronics. Plus, the Chinese also imposed additional port fees on U.S. vessels starting on October 14th. American soybean purchases were halted as another retaliatory measure. Can you see it now, guys? The globalists and the Chinese were trying to pop the AI bubble. And with the market this high, that could be a real bloodbath. But then what happened on Friday? In response to China's actions, on Friday the 10th, U.S. President Donald Trump threatened to impose 100% tariffs on Chinese goods. So Trump got blamed for the whole thing. The stock market sold off, and we had the worst, most suspicious crash in crypto in its entire history. Over 19 billion in leverage positions wiped out in 24 hours. All while the government is closed down, guys. All while the SEC is running on a skeleton crew, right? You can't hold the SEC responsible if they weren't even there, am I right? So now let the calendar reflect not just what the globalists did on Wednesday, but what the Chinese did on Thursday. Then Trump responds, and the media decides. That's when the tariff war began anew, and crypto got mollywopped. So on the calendar, I added crypto crash and tariff war. Now, XRP futures options began trading on the CME on Sunday, October 12th. I put a little CME logo there. That's the Chicago Mercantile Exchange. Uncle Frank worked there when he was a teenager as a runner. This was the day of the first trade, which was a block trade between Wintermute and Superstate. The launch of these options followed the announcement from the CME on September 17th and was part of a broader expansion of their crypto product suite. Now, I want you to notice the CFTC is closed just like the SEC is. That's the Commodity Futures Trading Commission. But somehow, this contract got launched. The other thing you have to understand is that the one product you could have hedged with on Friday during the worst crash in crypto history went live the weekend after. So Wall Street and the whales beat the living shit out of the futures traders just moments before they could have hedged their positions. And no one will ever be held accountable for that. Once again, retail was trying to buy the dip at dozens of platforms and brokers, but they took away the buy button again, didn't they? Reports are surfacing from everywhere that people couldn't get in for a myriad of reasons. Now, no one gave a shit that these options went live except for me, but here's why this was a substantial event. Did you know that the XRP futures contract became the fastest to surpass 1 billion in open interest in just over 3 months of its launch? That signaled strong institutional interest. That's right, faster than Bitcoin or Ethereum. And you wonder why they won't let this dog off the leash. The government is shut down, but somehow the new options got launched because it benefits Wall Street. Who wants to bet me that our ETFs don't get launched again because it may benefit XRP and retail? Now, stick with me, guys. This show gets better and better. On Thursday, the 16th, Senate Democrats blocked GOP plan for the 10th time, ensuring shutdown lasts into next week. When is the next Senate government shutdown vote? The Senate is scheduled to reconvene on Monday afternoon, October 20th at 3 p.m. Eastern Time. Following that, the Senate is set to vote on a measure to end the shutdown around 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Let me end the suspense. According to my contact, there are no serious negotiations underway between the president's team and the Senate or congressional Democrats to end the shutdown. But I put the Senate logo on the 16th when the vote failed and on the 20th when the next vote might occur. But check out what Ripple did in the middle of all this. Ripple just bought the company GT Treasury on Thursday, October 16th. The acquisition was for $1 billion and is Ripple's third major purchase of the year. Then on Friday, the 17th, Ripple is reportedly raising at least $1 billion to create an XRP-focused digital asset treasury, not buying back its own stock. The plan is to use the funds to acquire XRP tokens for this new treasury, according to several financial news outlets. This move is distinct from a share buyback and appears to be a strategy to bolster a significant holding of XRP tokens. So I put little Ripple logos on Thursday and Friday. But let me ask you a question. Are you seeing any headlines like that for other altcoins? How about for Bitcoin? Yeah, I didn't think so. Now, Wall Street didn't appreciate those little moves from Ripple on Thursday and Friday, so they launched their narrative. XRP News today, ETF delays and Senate gridlock gives bears a look at $2. XRP slides as another failed Senate vote extends the shutdown, delaying ETF approvals and regulatory action. Prolonged shutdown stalls SEC reviews of XRP spot ETFs, raising uncertainty over institutional inflows. Traders eye key catalysts, ETF approvals, Senate votes, and U.S.-China talks to determine XRP's next move. Okay, so now let's talk about all the XRP ETFs that the feds and its bullshit regulator have been delaying over and over again. Atkins delayed the approvals multiple times, and he knew the government was going to shut down October 1st, so he couldn't be blamed for any subsequent delays. Guys, do you understand now why they couldn't let these things launch? They could draw billions and billions of dollars from Bitcoin, Ethereum, and their ETFs. Let's start with Grayscale. Filed to convert its XRP trust in November of last year, with a final deadline of October 18th, now delayed. Guys, it doesn't take a year to convert a trust into an ETF, but I put a token there for today, Saturday. 21 shares filed in November of last year, with a final deadline of October 19th, now delayed. Bitwise filed in December of 2024, final deadline October 20th, now delayed. Canary Capital filed in October of 2024 with a final deadline of October 23rd, now delayed. A year. Wisdom Tree filed in December of last year, final deadline October 24th, now delayed. CoinShares filed in January of this year, final deadline October 25th, now delayed. Okay, so I think it's safe to assume Atkins will delay all of these and blame the shutdown. But now we have to figure out When will he say it? And how long will he delay it? Because we could get rugged. Some of us may want to buy that dip, not investment advice or advisor, and maybe our platform will be shut down for maintenance during that drop if it happens. Look at that beautiful wall of tokens, guys. This was all planned. They knew if they could push this past the shutdown, they would be safe. Now, yesterday, Friday the 17th, Atkins was supposed to host a public crypto task force roundtable on financial surveillance and privacy. Of course, postponed. I'm following him at the SEC site. I'm signed up for email alerts. So the goal is to find out, when will he announce all our XRP ETFs being delayed? How far will he push them out? 1 month, 2, into 2026. Will he time this announcement when Ripple drops some amazing news, or during the upcoming Ripple Swell event, or will he remain completely silent? Now, there are some XRP ETF developments that no one is watching because of the shutdown. So, where do we stand right now? The SEC was expected to announce decisions on 6 spot XRP ETF applications between October 18th and 25th. So now we don't think we're going to get those. Despite earlier rumors, BlackRock has stated it does not plan to file for an XRP ETF at this time, choosing to focus on its Bitcoin and Ethereum products. Okay, by now, I hope you're convinced of that. Also, that could change. And remember, BlackRock said to Gasparino, Larry Fink said to Gasparino, I can't comment on XRP, then came out and said, yeah, we're not going to do an XRP ETF. Do you ever remember BlackRock coming out and saying, yeah, we're not going to do a Doge ETF? No, he singled us out. Some futures-based XRP products, such as those from Volatility Shares, are already trading, and yes, I'm trading them. The Volatility Shares proposal for a 5x leveraged XRP ETF has raised concerns from some market commentators. Okay, guys, that one could launch on December 29th. Leveraged XRP ETFs are just another tool in my toolbox. For example, if on a Friday night I'm convinced that Ripple or XRP will release substantial good news on Monday, or if I believe XRP is wildly oversold and put in a good bottom on the chart, I might buy a little of one of these leverage products for spec. I don't swing from the fences on those trades, and those products are typically not held for more than a day or two. But if you can guess right on the short-term direction, you can scalp some nice little gains. Also, you should know Granite Shares filed for an XRP ETF offering 3x long and 3x short leveraged exposure. Now, you may have heard about this, but this comparison I find fascinating. From Kevin O'Leary, aka Mr. Wonderful, over the weekend, I witnessed something every crypto investor should pay attention to. Ethereum, the largest blockchain in the world, got congested and fees skyrocketed past 1,000 just to process small transactions. That's like paying a $1,000 toll to drive on a one-lane highway. It proves what I've been saying for years. When real traffic hits the system, it cracks under pressure. For over a decade, we've talked about going on-chain, and now, with real-world adoption finally happening, the cracks are showing. Innovation isn't just about hype or speculation. It's about building infrastructure that can actually handle scale. Now compare that to this. The XRP Ledger set a Guinness World Record for minting approximately 9.94 million non-fungible tokens in a single event for the Maya-kun character from the Japan Expo. This event highlighted the XRPL scalability and speed for large-scale token creation. I know what I own. And some of you might be interested to learn that 6 hacker-controlled wallets reportedly lost more than $13 million after panic selling Ethereum holdings during Friday's crypto market meltdown. That's proof some criminals know how to hack and steal, but don't know how to trade. It also tells me that if I'm a hacker criminal, my choice of token is Ethereum. Now let me show you why they had to stop XRP. Hit the like button, please. This is a lot of work. Let's add the cherry on the sundae. We got big announcements from Ripple on the 16th and the 17th. Then we could have had 6 spot XRP ETFs go live. Then we potentially get the rate cut from the Fed on Wednesday, November 29th. In my opinion, this could have been a parabolic move, and they took it away. Now I want to talk about upcoming catalysts and November. I recently got this email from EquityZen. They let accredited investors buy stocks in companies that are pre-IPO. Hi, Frank. You previously expressed an interest in Ripple 9 months ago. We wanted to let you know a live offering has just launched. Reserve your investment by visiting the company page below. So after 8 or 9 months of silence, suddenly I'm getting emails about buying Ripple before it goes public. Stay with me. Over its history, Ripple has attracted investment from a number of prominent venture capital firms and strategic corporate partners in earlier funding rounds. Andreessen Horowitz, Blockchain Capital, Google Ventures, Lightspeed Venture Partners, Pantera Capital, Seagate Technology, Standard Charter. Other prominent ones include SBI Holdings, a major Japanese financial services group that has also partnered with Ripple, Accenture Ventures, SCB Digital Ventures, and Tetragon Financial Group. Back in August, Vivo Power announced its intention to acquire 100 million in Ripple shares, positioning itself as the first public company to offer shareholders exposure to both Ripple shares and XRP. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't invest 100 million into a private company if they had no plans of going public in the immediate future, especially if my company's market cap was only 44 million. Think about that for a moment. But the week after that rate cut, on October 29th, we have Ripple swell, November 4th and 5th. Now we know David Schwartz is moving from CTO to a board seat at Ripple, so he may be planning some surprises for this event. But we also have the director of digital assets for BlackRock speaking. Will we get the announcement about a BlackRock ETF here? It could be on the table. When Brad Garlinghouse addresses the audience, will he announce that the Ripple IPO is back on the table? And let's not forget, the ISO 222 migration deadline is November 22nd. Will that directly or immediately impact XRP? I'm going to say unknown at this time. Now, guys, I'm convinced we have at least one surprise announcement coming out of this event. Not investment advice or advisor. And it would come from one of the 3 speakers on your screen, Brad, David, or Max, the guy from BlackRock. But there are 30 speakers total at this 2-day event. Now, guys, I want to remind you, these people aren't just in attendance at Ripple Swell. They're presenting. First, we have the ladies, Adina, Chair and CEO of NASDAQ, Sandy, Head of Innovation for Franklin Templeton, Ryan, Global Head of Digital Assets for Citi, Cynthia, Head of Fidelity Digital Asset Management, and then Hunter, CEO of Bitwise, Scott, Head of Markets Digital Assets for JP Morgan, Giovanni, Head of Cryptocurrency Products for the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and Sam, Managing Director and Head of Digital Strategy for State Street. Okay, so not a minor league lineup here. American companies announced 744,000 job cuts in the first half of 2025, marking the highest layoffs since the pandemic. I've been warning you about this for a while. No end in sight for government shutdown as key dates approach. In closing, I'm excited about Ripple XRP, but very nervous about flash crashes and volatility. Two things I'd bet 100% on right now is we get the rate cut at month end, and we will not have a deal to reopen the government on Monday. What I don't know is when the SEC will officially delay our ETFs and for how long. The trade war is back on. We are flying blind without any economic releases. We could see an end to the war in Ukraine soon, and I kind of enjoyed this meme on Bill Gates. When a guy has enough money to end world hunger, end poverty, regenerate the soil, and clean the oceans, instead chooses to pump his money into GMO mosquitoes, blocking out the sun, creating fake meat, and most importantly, producing toxic vaccines for 7 billion people, you have to ask yourself why. Hey, I want to thank you for watching, and please remember to hit the like button after this slide if you enjoyed the presentation. Subscribe to the channel and set the alert so you're notified when I have new information to share. See you at the bell.